And it is day 14 of 31 days of horror slash Halloween. We're not even at the halfway point, and man, it's going to be a long month. But today we have something a little bit different. I think from here on out, we're going to be getting, I think it's pretty safe to say, some fairly graphic fare. I mean, lots of blood, lots of guts, some foul language, some blasphemy, people talking back to their parents. I mean, it's pretty much unavoidable in the genre moving forward. So this film, I think, is maybe like a last-ditch effort to get us something that could be considered family viewing on this countdown of genre films. And it's a very interesting movie because it's made by William Castle. Now, William Castle, he's pretty much the king of the gimmick horror film. He's probably best known for doing a lot of films in the 50s and 60s where there were actually like in-theater gimmicks accompanying the movie. For example, he did House on Haunted Hill, and in certain theaters, they actually had like a mock-up of a ghost skeleton swing through the audience during certain scenes. I also did 13 Ghosts, where the gimmick was if you had a pair of special 3D glasses, you could actually see the ghosts on screen chasing everybody. And if you didn't have them, obviously you couldn't see them. That's a pretty interesting gimmick. The one he's probably most famous for, of course, is the Tingler. And that was the one where there are actual certain seats in the theater that were wired to actually like shock the people watching the film as things happen on screen. So he's a guy, he's a very entertaining character. But I think the funny thing is, what separates William Castle from guys like Ray Dennis Steckler or Ed Wood or, even Herschel Gordon Lewis, God rest his dead fraud committing soul, is that he's actually like a competent filmmaker. I mean, he actually makes really good films. I mean, The House on Haunted Hill is great. 13 Ghosts is great. I mean, he can actually make good movies to accompany the really out there gimmick. And Shanks is one of the very last movies ever made. It came out in 1974. And the gimmick for this movie is the fact that it doesn't have a gimmick at all. There's nothing. It's just a straight narrative. And it's not really my favorite William Castle film by any stretch of the imagination. But it's one of those films where I saw it when I was a kid, and I haven't really watched it in a long, long time, but I watched it recently to do this countdown. And it's one of those films where I can't say I really enjoy it 100%, but I can at least appreciate for trying to do something different. Alright, so the plot line. Bear with me here, it's a little out there. It stars the famous French mime Marcel Marceau. He's the main character, and he plays a puppeteer in some European village. And he's an understudy of some mad scientist who's come up with the ability to reanimate dead flesh using some like weird reanimator jelly. And also by using a special utility belt, he can control animated dead things. It makes no sense whatsoever. I don't even want to begin to get into the mechanics behind that, but just bear with me. It's a movie. Enjoy the illusion. Alright, so of course, what happens? The scientist, he ends up dying, and like his gal pal dies too. So of course, what does our main character, the titular character Shanks, do? Why, he uses that same utility belt and reanimating frog jelly to go out and get revenge on everybody who made fun of him. But first, he has to do some puppet shows. Like he actually turns like the dead corpses. I know it's redundant to call them dead corpses, but just bear with me. Um, he actually turns them into living marionettes. Well, actually, living dead marionettes is a more fitting title. And he takes them out in the village, and they do crazy dance routines. And his idea of getting revenge, it's pretty sort of underwhelming because for the most part, it's just like him going to like grocery stores and stealing things. So there's lots of scenes of people going out there and doing like really weird choreography, like they're bending over and about to fall over, doing the whole Michael Jackson thing where like they're on stage and they go okay like this, like that. They do that. That's like half the movie. And really, I mean, outside of the fact that it's about reanimating corpses, it doesn't really play out as a straight horror film until like the last 20 minutes. And what happens then? Oh, that's when the bikers show up. We're just having a good time playing with living dead meat puppets, and here come those leather-bound psychopaths who break into a Shanks castle and start eating all his food and drinking the wine and threatening to assault people. And then it's time. It's time for some zombie food. And that's definitely the most entertaining thing about the movie. That's when it actually gets kind of creepy. And there actually is a pretty creepy death in this film. I've never really seen it kind of ever done in this style. in any other motion picture. So for that, I'll give them credit. It involves drowning, but I'll let you watch the movie for yourself. All right, so overall, I can't say that I love the film, but like I said, just considering how exploitative and sleazy and really over the top a lot of the films from this era were, I can at least appreciate for trying to do something different, for going out there and doing an entirely different, aesthetic and trying to make it a little bit more centered. So, I mean, your mileage may vary. I mean, I appreciate it, but I don't really like it. I guess the best way to put it. But if you haven't seen it, it's probably worth your time. I'm going to give it 2.5 Ghost Reese's Cups out of 4, so it is mildly above average. But there are way, way better William Castle movies out there if you want to get into it. But this is a creation of the times. It's probably worth viewing. All right, next up, we're actually going to be going back in time. We did two movies from 1974. Now we're dialing back to 1973 with a film which stands out as one of the more, let's say, excessive proto slasher films from the era. Not a lot of people have heard about it. Not necessarily a great film, but if you're into the degenerate cinema sleaze, you'll probably enjoy it. Stay tuned. That's tomorrow.